go back to sales X. All right, that's better.
All right, we'll just wait a few moments to begin. It looks like we're live on Facebook and we're live on YouTube right now. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Hi, and thank you for joining us. My name is Tori Yu, and I'm with Main Street Relief. We're a nonprofit volunteer network offering simple, fast, and free one-on-one small business assistance across financial management, sales and marketing, technology, and operations. We have about 100 volunteers in 20 states. I'm here today for our first Facebook Live conversation with retail expert Bob Phibbs. Bob is the CEO of The Retail Doctor, a New York-based consultancy in its 26th year. He's worked with some of the biggest brands in the business, including Lego and Yamaha. His expertise is providing hope to small to medium-sized businesses. He is a thought leader, having appeared on ABC News, Fox, MSNBC, PBS, and he and his work have been featured in Entrepreneur, The New York Times, and The Wall Street Journal. He performs business makeovers as well for the Los Angeles Times. Bob, thank you so much for joining us today.
Great to be here, Victoria.
Now, I want to dive right in. We know that COVID has hit small businesses hard, particularly businesses owned by people of color, women, and businesses located in rural communities. Historically, though, small businesses have generated more than 40% of the economic activity in the United States. A September Yelp Economic Impact Report indicated that more than 160,000 businesses have closed, though, since March 1st. It's a really difficult time. Why should small businesses remain hopeful right now?
Well, where do you want me to start? We only have so many minutes on this briefing. Look, if you get nothing else out of listening to me today, we've all got a bunch of balloons in our left hand. We forget that. The problem is we are running around collecting rocks and wondering why we can't lift off because you're doom scrolling and oh, retail is dying. Department stores are dying. No one, and we just catastrophize ourselves into the abyss. When I had spoken to a hot tub manufacturer group of dealers 10 years ago, and they were saying how tough business was. And they were going on. And finally, the owner stood up. He goes, I founded this company when it was 24% interest on credit cards. And we had a gas shortage. Don't tell me it's tougher now. So, the big idea, and again, I'm not here to be anybody's friend. I'm just here to tell you the way it can be. Let's put on our big boy pants, our big girl pants, and let's go take names and be a gladiator. And that's what an entrepreneur is, that in the face of everything else, yeah, I get it. We're in the middle of winter. I get it. But you know what? Some people put on skis and they go out into the world and other people freeze to death. It's your choice. Make no mistake. If you want to stay stuck in doom scrolling, and you want to just keep sharing and talking and calling your friends, it's dead, it's hopeless. Great, you win. And those are the people that are out of business. I'm sorry, but there's a lot of retailers that I saw have gone out that, I'm sorry, you really weren't up to the challenge of having a compelling business. You have to know who your market is, and you got to be willing to go after them and do anything possible to get them. Anything less, and you have a hobby.
You bring up a theme that I want to touch on right now. The idea that small business owners have already made it through the hard part in a lot of ways. They have already started a business. They have already come up with the big idea, and they have already gotten off the ground. Can you tell me a little bit more about this? Maybe is there a crisis of confidence in small business owners?
Everybody seems to be waiting around for USA Today or CNN to go, pandemic over, election solved, economic malaise fixed, generation differences gone. It's never going to happen. Because I don't care what platform you're on. You're on Facebook right now. What is Facebook's number one goal? Sell you ads. See what you're clicking and writing and watching, and then sell you more ads. What does Fox and NBC really want you to do? They really care that you're turning into Rachel or to some of the guys on Fox? No, they want to sell airtime for Pampers. So the more you want to be focused on that world, they're going to keep sucking you in like it's a jackpot. Look at how horrible it is. Look at how horrible it is. And if we don't guard our minds, especially as entrepreneurs, then we have missed it, because the reason you're an entrepreneur is you say, I don't want the other life I could have. I want this one. And if that's the way it is, then jump into the driver's seat and drive the car. And that may mean you have to give up some of your digital subscriptions to news organizations. You may not participate in BuzzFeed surveys and those click 30 things that Jen Aniston does that drives Brad Pitt wild. Oh, really? What's one? Oh, click again, right? You may have to judge that and say, probably not the best use of my time, because all that matters is your four walls or your experience, whether it's digital or omni-channel or whatever it's going to be. The only way you build a business is, what is my customer getting out of this? And if you can't answer that, if you can't do better than the other guy, then again, you got a hobby. So enthusiasm is great, but make no mistake, you can have enthusiasm and be a ball player. But if you want to be a professional, you gotta be willing to do the reps, go in when it's raining, when you're cold, when you don't feel like it, when you're down in the dumps, and you keep going. Does that make sense?
So this is something that I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second.
Right.
So here at Main Street, when we work with our small business customers, the folks who reach out to us for guidance across these different areas, one of the things, a theme that we often see is just uncertainty. This is just to overuse this word again, this is an unprecedented time. There's not really a blueprint available to small business owners about what their next steps might need to look like. So just how bad has this pandemic been when you think about the uncertainty that's layered on top of this, and what can small businesses do both in the short term and the long term to navigate this situation?
All right, I might have to have you repeat that because that was kind of long. But the first thing that comes back to me is, in the 1940s, Truman nationalized the railroads, and no one knew what was going to happen to the whole transportation system. It was a scary time, and you had people, guys who were coming back from war, who were taking women's jobs, and the whole uncertainty of, we're going to have enough jobs because we had this war plant we built and all of these factories and everything. And it was a time of uncertainty. And yet the French came up with a bikini. Best of times, worst of times, you decide. It's not going to get better, kids. I'm sorry, it's not. I don't care who wins the election. The other side is not going away. I don't care. The pandemic, we're just going to hear these messages over and over. You're all going to die tomorrow, and there's no hope, and no one's going back to Manhattan, seeing a show, taking arts, going to sports, having a family, getting married. And if you take that, you're going to miss what could be the cusp of the greatest business expansion ever. We are seeing more entrepreneurs get into it. But make no mistake, you don't open a restaurant and go, Victoria, I've always wanted to cook. No. You need to know what food costs are. You need to know who your market is. You need to know how much it's going to cost and how you're going to sell it and what it's going to take, all of those things. So that's why I appreciate partnering with you, because I give the hope and inspiration, the kick in your butt, and you give them more actionable tools. But make no mistake, this is yours. This isn't somebody else's to drive. It's your car. If you don't like it, if it's too much, then look at the potential that you could go back to work at the job you had before. Were you happy with that? It's your choice. Either there's the best of times or worst of times, which is we're kind of in this moment, right? With this first 10 minutes of our chat here, it does come down to confidence and how you look at it. But that's a lot of it. That's a lot of being an entrepreneur. Jeff Bezos, as much as you may hate him, he just said, what if I sold the books online? What if? That's the whole point of it. Instead of, oh my God, what if? It's like, oh, well, what if? And look at Walt Disney, look at Jobs, look at any of the big entrepreneurs that we think of today. It's no different than I live in a little hamlet of 800 people. There's a guy in my village. I live in a village in upstate New York, and he's putting a bunch of people together. He's taking an old electric works factory on the Hudson River, been derelict for 50 years. And he's putting a 5-story hotel on top of the historic structure, a day spa, a restaurant. And he all announced the plans like March 10th. And he said, by listening to your Facebook Lives every Sunday, I decided to go ahead, and we just committed $1 million to the project on the foundations. And I said, good, that's the right thing to do. because a lot of other people aren't, and they're worried and they're afraid. And I'm telling you, if you get out in the middle of a street right now, Victoria, and you're worried and afraid of being hit by a car, you're not going to see the other one that's right behind you that hits you. But if you just relax and go, all right, so what do I have to be? I'm in the middle of a street. What's going to happen? And you take your bearings and you know your direction, I think you're going to be fine.
You touched on innovation in your answer just now, and I really want to talk about that. We've seen small businesses innovate during this time. So whether that's virtual cooking classes through restaurants that are doing virtual cooking classes, virtual cheese tastings. Here in Austin, I love Antonelli's Cheese Shop. They're doing virtual cheese tastings. I had never been to a cheese tasting.
How does that work? Do they send you cheese and you all eat it at the same time? How does that work?
This is, again, I think, is the idea of innovation, right? I had never been to a pre-COVID cheese tasting through this small business here in town. But now with COVID, me and my husband were looking for ways to spend our time. We go online, we see the different cheese tasting offerings. They're tied to different themes. You order your cheese, you drive there, you open your trunk, you text them, they put it in your car. And that same evening, you have an hour-long guided cheese tasting. And it's it's really an incredible thing they've done. My gym is doing virtual workout classes. I think about some industries that are doing innovation very well. I think about the healthcare industry, for example, and what they've done with telemedicine. What are some short-term choices that I can make as a retailer to innovate, whether that's an online shopping experience or a Zoom shopping experience, and what industries are doing it particularly well?
You are such a reporter. It's like, let me get all of these questions in. And it's like, oh my gosh, I only have a couple minutes. By the way, if you're watching us live, you can enter in comments and we can see them and answer them. So please make sure you jump in there and write your comments. We'll answer while we're doing this live. But anything to do with how to is certainly going to be a good way to get in front of people. I think what can businesses do, though? The number one thing that most businesses just don't, I don't know, I feel like I'm beating my head against a wall sometimes, but just look at Google My Business. Just go and claim your listing and make sure you're using posts and questions and answers and put your top 5 questions people ask you. Get it up there because people see all of that. Ask for reviews. That's really important. I think there's a fine line, though, Victoria, between there's a lot that you can do that's innovative, as my assistant would say, who loves to speak British. And then there's a lot that's a distraction. Make no mistake, there's only one thing that matters. Did you make a sale today? That's it. So for you, in your example with the cheese shop, that's brilliant. I love that because you had to buy it. You actually, instead of them having to ship it for free or something, which would have cost them a lot of money, you had to go and drive to pick it up. I love that. And then they're going to use that with their Zoom. That makes total sense. But so many people want to just have events for events' sake. And I'm saying, no, you have to have an event so that it drives sales or it drives purchase or it drives more trips back to you. So that's it. But, everybody, let's face it, Peloton, Mirror, there's a lot of big companies that are doing workout from home. And yeah, I get it. I can do yoga with 1 million people. You really want to know what's the niche that you can play in and do better than anybody else. When I founded the Retail Doc 26 years ago, I went to a Tony Robbins seminar, and Tony is amazing. By the way, if you've never, I don't get a fee for this, but if you've never been to one of his events, they're all virtual now. And his UPW and his Date for Destiny changed my life. And I walked away from the first one that I went to, and he said, you better come up with a brand nobody else can do better than you can. And I filed the trademark the next morning. And that took me 3 years to figure out, what do I do with that? And I was being a consultant. And I said, if I'm going to do this, I've got to hit it out of the park. And I ended up getting one client, my third client, who we got a full top half of the New York Times business section, October 24th, 1999, on the category Killer, me with a picture with my client. Amazing. And people say, oh, how do you do it? I just happened to be in the right place at the right time, and I ended up driving it. But make no mistake, the first thing is I had to hit it out of the park. And so when people are looking for quick ways to do it, if I just do this Instagram hashtag, if I just do this contest, if I just offer 50% off, those can all be distractions because you have to make enough money to be able to either live the life that you want or to be able to sustain you and not be looking for money from friends and family. They only want to do that once for you. And that's why if you're just looking at this right now and you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, it's really important that you know your numbers, you know your figures. Who is your market? Don't say everyone. No one is. Everyone is not your market. It should be really niche. I'm fine if you are going to be the Chihuahua store and you're located in Chihuahua, Mexico, where they all come from, and everybody and their uncle has a Chihuahua. I'm like, awesome. But to open a Chihuahua store in the middle of, and I don't mean to sell Chihuahuas, but everything Chihuahua, right? In the middle of Des Moines, where you have no idea if people have Chihuahuas, they know what it is, but I live there. Well, then choose something else, because you have to be realistic. So I think it is a time of innovation. I think the innovations are coming in having virtual selling, being able to shop with somebody online on a website, but they're much more advanced tools than a small business can do. I mean, that's a very sophisticated program. There's a great program that I recommend where you turn your landline into a text line. It's amazing.
I like that.
And Podium is great. I did a sponsored webinar with them last month, but that's money. I mean, that's serious money. But if you've been around for a while, that might be the best thing that you can do, because you don't want to be everybody trying to figure out how to message somebody. Because here's just with messaging alone. So quickly, I've been calling Victoria, and it's just Tori. You go by a shorter name on Zoom.
Answer to both.
Here's the thing. So many people go through and think that customers, like I think a recent survey, 60% of entrepreneurs think that customers want to respond, you to talk to them by email, and 65% thought that customers wanted them to talk by phone. Oddly, it's 90% want to talk to you by message, text message.
So
that's easy. You could do that, but you're going to have to think about how that all plays out. So to me, those kind of things, those things where you can use Stripe or you use a Shopify or somebody and dive deep in analytics. That's what it's all about. There's a lot of distractions out there. There's a lot of, oh, we could do this. Just ask yourself, is this going to help me make more sales? Or is this just an interesting thing? Is this too big for me to be doing right now? But I'll put it on the back burner, because you can get caught up in the shiny objects, can't you, Tori? I mean, there's so many out there right now.
I like these 4 takeaways that I think I've gotten from this answer. It's know your audience, know your numbers, know your message, and determine what's an innovation and what's a distraction.
Could you be my ghostwriter, please? I'm just saying.
Well, it's very helpful advice, and I want to keep those 4 things in mind as I ask you this next question.
Okay.
The holidays are approaching. How can retailers make this a really good holiday season? We've got Black Friday coming up, and then holidays following that. What can we do to recoup losses?
Well, Black Friday is not typically a big day for smaller retailers. It's a loss leader for the big boys. So most people, because that's usually when the shop small weekend is. So, it's like, go to the big boxes on Friday, come to us. Now, a lot of people are touting the death of Black Friday. Black Friday's been dead for several years. I mean, when people are getting stampeded and die when they come through your retail doors, that's not really good PR for an event. But that said, you want to be putting your Christmas merchandise out right now. I call this the bitch and buy. And let me explain that. You put out your Christmas merchandise. Bob, it's only October the 15th. I know. I don't even have my Halloween stuff all the way out yet. I know. Just put it out.
I didn't know we had accessories today, Bob. I would have brought some.
Oh yes, we have accessories. So you're telling me that you so you put it out. You put a nice display. It may not be as big. Maybe it's in the back. It's on the side. It's not the first thing I see, and you'll hear customers, this is absolutely ridiculous. I can't believe they have Christmas stuff. I'll take 2.
Yeah.
And here's the reason why that's so important. Because if I got $1 from you right now, it's $1 less you have to spend with a competitor. It's that simple. So it is all about shopping early. The American Booksellers Association has just launched a new ad campaign. It's October is the new December, buy early. And I love that, because supply chains are stressed right now. There's no 2 ways about it. You don't know how much of a product to buy. You're probably going to be out. A lot of people ask me on my Facebook Live videos, which, by the way, you can go to the Retail Doctor and follow me on Facebook. and they'll say, I don't know, when should I reorder? When should I stop? And just be careful you don't go back to the well because you love it. You think these are great. If these weren't all candy corn, they were candy cane. You think, oh, these are sold out really well. Yeah, well, if your employees bought 4 of them and you only got 12 and you sold 4 and you have 4 left, you're thinking like, this is a knockout. Is it though? So just be careful you're not buying based on what you want. Make sure that you're only buying based on what you need. And then the other thing is to remember that we're about as happy as we make our minds up to be. If you think it's going to be a horrible day, guess what? You win. You unlock the door. I hate Christmas music. Oh, that's a great thing to hear on December 1st. Yay, you. Because people are listening. Your crew is listening. Your customers are listening. Your goal is to make somebody else, and this is true for any entrepreneur, I don't care whether you're a retailer, your restaurant, whatever. Your goal is in life is I have to make somebody else's day before they're going to make my day. Some people don't learn that lesson. They open a business and they fail miserably because they are looking at every customer with dollar signs in their eyes like, oh, I bet I can get that. Or and it's this clawing kind of thing. And I'm telling you, if you just help enough people get what they want, you're going to get what you want. But you've got to put the gas, you got to put the effort out there. You got to open your heart and be genuine and find a way to connect to another human being, especially at a time with COVID, before they're ever going to be able to tell you their hopes and wishes. And that goes for, again, you can be freelancer, graphic design. It's no different. If you don't bond with me to begin with, and you're just like, well, that design will cost, 5 hours time and it's this and this, you're probably not going to get the gig. So that's the hard work all of us have to work on in entrepreneurs is put on your big boy, big girl pants, shut the hell up about what's wrong and why you can't and why you wouldn't, because it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And then just have a laser focus on who your customer is and who they aren't.
And you're talking about building genuine relationships with your customers. What are some tips or ways to do that right now? How can businesses do that?
Well, one of the biggest traps that most of us do is we say the same thing we've said forever. So if you're in a retail store, hi, can I help you find something? You're in a hotel, hi, checking in, restaurant, table for one. Try not to say all those stupid things. Just say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. And then just notice something that they either say or hold or wear, and make a compliment and ask a question and get them to talk to you. And then the second part of that is share something from your own personality from there. For example, I might ask you, Tori, I see you got you got the Apple headphones there. Do you like those?
I do. I want the earbuds though.
I was just going to ask you, why don't you have the earbuds? See, I have the earbuds, but they fall out on me. I don't know if I have too big an ear or something, but so I'm kind of old school with the earphones.
And I would tell you,
it's that much of it's that much. That's it. And yet, if I just ask you a question, so are those are Apple? Just play with me. Are those Apple earphones?
Yeah.
Did you get those with the iPhone?
Yeah.
Oh, which one?
The 11X. I don't know.
11X. Oh, and how do you like that? That's got the 3 cameras, doesn't it?
It's fine. It's great.
And about this time, you're saying, "Shut the hell up, leave me alone."
Yeah, I just want to shop. I just want to buy my item.
You've crossed a line. You've asked too many questions at a time. That's why we have that much. And again, if you're a beginning entrepreneur, you don't know what to do, go out and read Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Go out and read The Magic of Thinking Big. Get those 2 books and go to YouTube and watch The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale. Do those 3 things and start programming your mind to, how do I master the skill of opening myself up to listen and notice rather than just vomit useless fact after useless fact. And you'll find that's how I built my business. I'm sure that's what you learned as a reporter as well, right? It's a listening skill, isn't it?
Listening to people, noticing people. I think that's all really important. And I think that is certainly what I'm hearing from you and how to build these genuine relationships. I'm wondering too, from a networking perspective, how valuable is it for entrepreneurs and small business owners to build these relationships with their peers or other networks that are going through similar experiences?
I think it is. I think the trap, I just realized that I could probably pull myself down a little. I think the trap that we run into though with that is we sometimes join groups and then we find people who will be miserable with us. When I go to a networking group, I want to find the guy or the gal, the black, the Hispanic, the gay, the lesbian. I don't care, whoever you are, whoever has got the right attitude and who's doing something amazing. I want to go find their number and find out what they're doing. What I don't want to do is hang by myself and find other people who are miserable. And my first question is, so how's business? Because we all know what's the answer going to be, Tori. How's business for you?
So folks might come back and say busy or bad or uncertain.
No, what are they probably going to say right now?
I don't know.
Huh?
With COVID, uncertain or scary.
Or horrible. Or
horrible.
We're down 50% from last year. Oh, well, oh my God, that's horrible. Well, we were down 40%. Oh my God. I hear Jane, Jane, come over here. Her restaurant burned in a fire and she hasn't been able to do. And now you've just got this pity party where ask a better question in networking, right? So if I just met you, I might say, so tell me, what made you decide to open your business? What was it? What was that day that you decided? And most of us will remember that pretty well. And that's a great moment. We're like, oh, they treated me poorly. And I walked out the door and I said, I'll never work in corporate America again. Great. And now you've got these cool stories you're all sharing. You're like, I like them. But don't go in there thinking that it's up to somebody else to make you happy. You're going to have to work the room. I think there's too much written over networking, in all fairness. It's just really basic. It is awkward. It's awkward for everybody. And just find a few lines you can be comfortable in and don't default to what you think. Oh, hi, how you doing today? No one cares. Oh, is this your first time here? No one cares. But most of you have your name and your business. So you could say, so tell me, what was the day that you decided to open your own business? And realize that's their life they're going to tell you. And all our life is memories. So you have a great launching pad to be able to now share something other than pity stories. Does that make sense, Tori?
Well, I love that your question evokes a fond memory, or at least a memory that might reinstate that confidence that small business owners might be searching for during this time. So I'm not a small business owner. I'm not a retail expert, but I do care about my community and the stores and the small business owners that make up my community. How can I support them as an individual right now?
That's a great question. I don't have the great answer, but I think, the most basic is if you can't buy something from them 3 times in a month, you can certainly share a post. You can certainly give encouragement and say, hey, we love you. We really enjoy your business. I think you can go through and find opportunities to share. Like if you buy a gift, picture of the kid opening it or something. Well, some people get weird about pictures of kids, but whatever. You love the wrapping. You take a picture outside the store, but you're keeping something positive out there. I think the danger at this time of year is hungry reporters who it's pretty easy to write a story about a struggling retailer right now. It paints itself. Her husband and she opened their business when they were newlyweds last year, and they were going to go to Tahiti with all the blah, 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 blah. And then the COVID struck. Dun! And life sucks for them, and no one's here. In fact, we're here at their store. We've been here 5 hours, and no one's here. Can you don't do one of those stories, for God's sake. And if you're in charge of Main Street downtown, have some media training for your members so that they don't do these things, because people notice and it's like, oh, that's a dead area. I don't want to go there. I don't want to meet that guy. Even if it's dead, you can say, oh, traffic's down a little bit, but you just caught us at a down time. We just had a big rush. People want to hear that. Nothing succeeds like success. Find anything you can say. And that's why when you use something like a text to landline, or you come up with a new shopping site, or you're letting people virtually shop with you on your website, or whatever it's going to be, you can go back to your local media and say, I have a story. Would you be interested in a story how a small business is using technology to win over weary customers? Absolutely we are. But we don't do that. We sit in our store, we sit in our business. Yeah, well, we have a great product. I can't get any publicity. Well, you have to do the job for them. And you know that too, right, Tori? It's like, tell me, it's not unlike the New York Times story that I got. So I went through and my first goal was to get Mike successfully. Went up 50% the first year, 40% the next. I went to the local free rags that you get in a coffee shop. Would you get a story about a local thing? Yes, they did. Then I did the local hometown paper, and then I got great press on it. So I just called up the New York Times in a bold move, and I said, "Would you be interested in the story about how the little guy beat the big guy?" Yeah, we would. And then 3 months later, I had a reporter, Joel Kotkin. He's a fellow now at the Chapman University. He came out and interviewed me in Encino and had a great time. And I thought, well, this would be a little byline or something at the bottom. And when I went downstairs for coffee at the Hilton in New York City that morning, and there I am actually I had the picture on the front page when you flip the page of me and Mike in color. And people say, "Oh, you were lucky." It's like, don't kid yourself. That was not luck. I knew what I wanted and said, I'm going to find a way to do this. And that launched the book and the speaking career and a lot of other things. You don't have to be that grand. What you do have to do, though, is realize it doesn't help me being alone in my store, in my cubicle, in my business with an idea. And by the way, and you might differ on this, Tori, I don't give a damn that you came up with a wonderful way to slice pineapple into tennis shoes. That's not what's interesting. What's interesting is the customer that bought them and finished the race first. That's the story you need to tell. I think too many times entrepreneurs, we're talking about, look at what I did. And it's really about, look at what my customer did. Most of the stories I try to tell about in my speeches is always based on, look what they did. I had something to do with it, but it's what they did with it afterwards. And I think it's the same thing for you, that really opening a business, that's really not that hard in this day and age. What is hard is finding enough customers who become raving fans and say, yeah, that made a difference. And then being able to take their success and say, ask somebody else, somebody else comes to you. I'm trying to get the right words in the right order. Somebody else comes to you and says, can you solve my problem? You're like, oh, yes, I can. I just did it for them over there. And that's no different than a gift store, than a digital marketing agency, than a bank. It's all the same. People are attracted to stories of success, not just that you opened the door. Plenty of businesses and restaurants open every day and close every day. That's not a story in itself. What is a story is how somebody used it in a way that resonated with readers or viewers or TikTokers or whatever.
TikTokers. Well, you're applying the principles of, like a political campaign, these endorsements, these validators to a retail industry, right? You have to have these validators, these endorsers for these endorsements for your product. I also really like your message here. You don't have to be grand, but you do have to be tenacious. And I think that is a big piece of the puzzle here. I want to ask you, we're coming up on our time, so I want to ask you for your closing thoughts before I jump to some questions from our audience.
Sure. Oh,
so yes. What are your any closing thoughts for us, Bob?
Closing thoughts. I think it comes down to realizing if there was one message that I am consistently giving on all my virtual keynotes around the world, it's quite simply that fear is the path of the dark side. That if we don't manage what's going into our ears and into our head, and put the phone down, if you're going to talk to your spouse, it can't be at the dinner table. It can't be when you're watching TV or streaming or whatever the heck it is these days. That hope is what pulls us forward. That starts from being grateful for what happened today. Gratitude is is like I did with you earlier, that memory of a pleasant memory when you founded your business. That's what your life is. That's what we got to focus on. We could live in a really great mindset if we just allowed ourselves to. But most of us wouldn't treat an enemy the way we treat ourselves. You're not doing enough. You didn't, you missed, you couldn't. And just stopping that and then not adding fuel to the fire, because let's face it, there's a lot to worry about it. I get it. But I'm telling you, in a year from now, we're going to say that was nothing. We didn't think there could be a 9/12 in most of our lives. That morning at 7:40 in Los Angeles, when the second tower went down, and I was watching. It's like we are watching the destruction of our entire civilization, and yet here we are. Here we are, 19 years later.
Thank you, Bob. And I've got a couple questions here
Fabulous.
from
I'm
our
going to take a hit of tea here real quick. All right.
Please do. So in that vein, looking ahead, where is retail in 2025? What is your best guess?
I think we're going to see retail is going to be kind of like the craft beer movement. We're going to see people having their retail store. It's just going to be for them. They aren't going to try to be a Bed Bath & Beyond or a Papyrus or a Lululemon or a Starbucks. It's just going to be enough to take care of their little area. And I think that's going to be really exciting, because what we're in right now is the third wave of retail. And what do I mean by that? The first wave is, and it's very much like coffee. The first wave of coffee was you had little coffee joints all around, and they were kind of idiosyncratic and kind of dirty and they just weren't really that popular. And then who comes along? Starbucks, Pete's, the big boys, and they popularize it. The third wave of coffee was when all the people who had worked for those went out on their own and elevated the entire experience. And I think that's what we're seeing in retail, that we had boutiques, we had small little mom and pops, Main Street retailers. It was kind of like one person in the family worked at another job and the other one did the store or something like that. And then the big boxes came in, the malls and all that, and a lot of people came there. And I think we're going to see, certainly for the short term, we're going to see more people who are going to stay local, stay home, and they're going to support those small little businesses. But make no mistake, Tori, I am not coming to your store because you're local. Do not tell me I have to put up with bad service and, a kid who basically unrolled his T-shirt and his backpack and threw it on before he walked in the door, or some body who is talking about how much they hate retail. I'm not putting up with it. I'm not going to give you money. So your goal again comes back to make my day, I'll make your day. And yes, I think we're going to have less retail places to buy things. No two ways about it. I think everything will be omni-channel, meaning I could be in the subway and see an ad and I'll be able to order it there and have it shipped multiple ways. I think products are still going to find us in our Facebook feeds and Instagram. Brick and mortar will still be around. The great question is how many brands will be able to make it through, because the biggest problem most retailers have is 80% of what you sell, somebody else already does too. And we're going to have to cull that herd down a bit so that there is a little bit of scarcity, certainly in the brick and mortar side of it.
Thank you, Bob. I've got another question here. Do you believe in the 5 rule? Tell 5 people about your business, ask them to tell 5 others to help spread the word.
It's not a bad idea. Is that something you guys teach? I have to make sure I don't say something. Is that what you teach? Is that something?
No, it's not. It's not a pillar of Main Street.
Oh,
it's
okay. Let me check, because it sounds good. I just can't imagine doing that for most retail businesses. It sounds like the E-Myth. When I first met Mike, who's one of my first clients, and Mike was telling me all about, oh, have you ever read the E-Myth? Oh, you got to have the process. You got to have I was like, oh, and have you done that? No. So why do you call that as like the best thing ever? And it gave him the sense that he understood it. But knowledge is not power, my friends. I do online training. In fact, Sales Direct right behind me is my online retail sales training program. And just knowing it is like you have the ingredient list in a recipe, but unless you actually have the recipe, you don't have anything unless you know how to use it. So the same idea here, that yeah, that all sounds fine, but in practice, how does that work? Like 5 people at my store, hey, if you have 5 friends, would you let them know that we're here? Because right now I could do that through text messaging. I could do that through geofencing. I could do it through social media. I just say it makes a great soundbite. What I care about is exceptional experience from the person that you meet, so they become a raving fan and have remarkable service. Like you wouldn't believe it. I had plantar fasciitis on my foot a couple of years ago, and I was miserable, and I'm going on planes and I'm miserable. I went to my doctor, and he said, oh, you need inserts. And so I got them, and I get this call at 9:00 at night, and I don't even recognize the number. It's out of New Jersey, and it's my doctor. He goes, I know you had your first speech today on the insoles. How was it? Dr. Patterson, it was great. Why? Goes, I just wanted to check because I knew you were on the stage until 8. That's remarkable.
That's
That's the level of, that's what I want, is that aha moment where you're like, wow.
Absolutely. I've got a last question here for you. And you and I actually touched on this a little bit previously, but this business has never been online before. If they were going to go online, what can they do? And I know that that's kind of a dense question because there are several different tiers to this. So let's say they don't have a social media presence. Is that a good first step? And once they're there, what's a step after that?
Yeah, I would say everybody needs a Facebook business page. If nothing else, you need it to learn the platform, because it is going to be our main tool to talk to people. Although those of you who have legacy retailers, don't forget that mail is still a great thing. It's expensive as heck to do, but direct mail, we're all home. We're like little Opie and the Music Man. Oh, the Wells Fargo. But did I get something in the mail today? We're even looking through those damn catalogs like, well, there's something to take me out of my day. So don't forget, direct mail is still good. But yeah, I would say certainly I would start with a Facebook business page. I think you can set up through Wix or some other things. You can get a website up really quick, and it has to answer the basics, which are the directions to your store. What the hell do you do? What are your hours, and how do they contact you? Get that much up, and then always be looking at, how do I collect names? Not just give me your business card, but of customers. So if you're a cash-based business, you're going to have to find a way, have them check in on their phone through Facebook, or have some way, have them scan a QR code. That's another one that a lot of retailers have found really successful. But do something to get their names, because people who know you are like 3 times as likely to buy from you again. And more importantly, their cost of every purchase that they make after that goes down, because you only really had to market to them once. They already knew who you were. You didn't have to, I'm trustworthy. I'm going to do the health benefits. We're wearing the mask, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. So to wrap up our conversation, I want to go over some of the really great takeaways that you gave us today. The first thing, I think, above all else, is small business owners to remember their confidence and remember how far they've already come. The second thing, innovate. Don't create distractions. And part of that is knowing your message, knowing your audience. When you network, do it in a way that is uplifting to yourself and to others. Start marketing your holiday gear now.
What do we call that? Bitch and buy, baby.
That's what it was, yes. And don't be grand, just have tenacity. That's and right. Get online.
That's right.
Anything I've missed, Bob?
And again, Google my business. Even if you're brand new, you've been around for a while, make sure you go and claim your listing. Just put as much as you can, because that's the engine everybody goes to. Yeah, I suppose Bing is out there in Yahoo, but that's the one we go to. So why not take advantage of it?
Absolutely. I appreciate your time, your insights, your expertise. This has been such a valuable conversation, and this will be such a valuable tool for the small businesses that we serve. I've learned a lot today, and I think thanks to everyone for tuning in. If you are a small business owner seeking small business assistance, please contact Main Street Relief. You can send us a message right here on Facebook or at mainstreetrelief.com. We're also seeking more volunteers to help us offer simple, fast, and free small business assistance. Give us a shout, mainstreetrelief.com again, and sign up to help a small business in your hometown. Thank you so much again to everyone for watching, and thank you, Bob. We so appreciate your time.
Thank you.